how many illegal FISA queries have occurred under your leadership of the FBI?
Well, there are reports that have come out with different numbers about compliance incidents.
More than 1 million illegal ones? Because that's what the Inspector General said. The Inspector General said that in the 3.4 million of these queries, more than 1 million were in error. Do you have any basis to disagree with that assessment by the Inspector General?
I'm not sure actually that's a correct characterization of the Inspector General's findings on that.
The internet will remind you of that in moments.
I want to get into the 3.4 million backdoor searches that the ranking member pointed out in his opening statement. It's obviously very concerning that there's a large volume of searches, and particularly concerning the error rate that was reported on in the last 2 years in the public reporting. Now, that error rate was what? I believe it was around 30%, and I think several numbers. I think it's around 30%. 30%. I'm a lawyer, not a mathematician, but 3.4 million, about 30%. You're talking about 7 figures of error in terms of the searches.
House lawmakers have approved the reauthorization of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA, for 2 years. Today's vote comes after an earlier version of the bill that called for a 5-year extension failed in the House. But the measure won't head to the Senate for approval just yet. Opponents scheduled a reconsideration vote for next week. The surveillance program is scheduled to expire on April 19th.
The Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Board, created by the 9/11 Commission Act of 2007, says that our amendment is consistent with what should happen. Our amendment is consistent with the majority recommendation of that board. This was a board specifically created to protect Americans' liberties, looking at how the intelligence community operates by the 9/11 Commission Act of 2007. And they say this amendment, the majority of that board said this amendment is what needs to happen.
I had a bill that we brought to former President Bush was president that addressed some of our FISA concerns, didn't go all the way. This bill does. And in this legislation, there are scores of provisions that strengthen our case for civil liberties. Some of them improvements on existing law, some of them new provisions in the law to protect the civil liberties of the American people. So this Biggs Amendment seriously undermines our ability to protect the national security, and I urge our colleagues to vote against it. I don't have the time right now, but if members want to know, I'll tell you how we could have been saved from 9/11 if we didn't have to have the additional warrants.
Hey everybody, Tim Burchett, just leaving the House floor. Not a good day for democracy. FISA has passed currently through the House. The amendment that would have stopped warrantless searches on Americans. I get what you're saying. Warrantless searches on Americans. It did not pass. So warrantless searches will continue, and that's not really good, folks. I was told by the State Department that those that warrants were problematic. Well, I got news for you. The Constitution is problematic to the State Department and the intelligence community, the FBI, and the rest of them, and it should be. They should not be able to do searches on you electronically or otherwise without due legal process, not without going before a judge. It's a very sad day. We've allowed the intelligence community to run Capitol Hill, and once again the Uniparty has collected all their folks in and won, and that's why these elections are so important. Dadgummit, I don't care if you go to church with a member or you're in your Sunday school class, you play golf with them. Look, if they come down here and vote to take away your constitutional rights, why in the world would you all keep electing them? Either party.
We have a critical opportunity today to stand up for the civil liberties that are enshrined in our Constitution while also safeguarding our national security. Every single day, the FBI conducts an average of 500 warrantless searches of Americans' private communications, resulting in over 278,000 searches in 1 year alone. The FBI has invaded the privacy of members of Congress, a state court judge who reported civil rights violations by a local police chief, Black Lives Matter protesters, and more. We cannot pass this bill without additional protections like my amendment with Representative Biggs and Nadler and Jordan and Lofgren and Davidson to close the backdoor search loophole. Some members have implied that the Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Board does not support the amendment. To counter that, let me share some quotes from Sharon Bradford Franklin in her personal capacity as chair of the Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Board, the independent government agency tasked with ensuring the executive branch conducts national security work in a way that protects our civil liberties and our privacy. Here are her quotes. It is critical that in reauthorizing Section 702, Congress include a warrant requirement for U.S. person queries. Another quote, requiring a warrant for U.S. person queries would neither end U.S. person queries nor undermine the overall value of Section 702.
Now, I've enjoyed it, all the attention, the Biggs, Jayapal, Jordan, Nadler, Davidson, Lofgren amendment has received. It's been flattering that on every other amendment and the underlying bill, we don't talk about any of that other stuff. We talk about warrant. And that gets to the reality of the situation. The intelligence community wants control. They want to continue to have control without any checks.
Myth. FISA is used to spy on Americans. The myth goes like this. If you query an American's name, you can see their inbox. But it's not true. It is used to spy on foreign intelligence targets, foreign terrorists, and you need a warrant to do so. If they speak to an American, you will get that part of the conversation. That is all you get. It would do the necessary reforms it would codify 56 more reforms. It would put in processes before queries are even made. It would put in criminal penalties for those who do not abide by those processes. The FBI hates these reforms, by the way. Please support this bill. Please do not support the amendment to require a warrant for queries. And I yield back.
The security states' abuse of their foreign intelligence authorities to unlawfully surveil American citizens and search their records has been exposed for all to see. In 2021, the FBI conducted over 3 million FISA searches of Americans, and in 2022, the FBI was still conducting hundreds of such warrantless queries per day. In the 2020 and early 2021 time period, the FBI conducted over 278,000 searches of the 702 FISA database that violated the Justice Department's own rules and often lacked national security connections. The FBI is querying Americans of all political and religious affiliations. The FBI is even using Section 702 to target elected and appointed government officials. The FBI's abuses are well known, using the 702 database to search for information on those individuals that it perceives to be political enemies of liberal orthodoxy, seeking to infiltrate the Catholic Church, spying on parents at school board meetings, and working with big tech to censor Americans it disagrees with. This is Stasi-level abuse, and it must be stopped. So my question for this body is, if catching the government violating the Constitution and our civil liberties is not the time for significant reform, then when is? The proposed changes to FISA are a good first step, but they don't go far enough. There are 3 additional amendments to assure accountability. One includes a warrant requirement to query the 702 database for Americans. There is no national security exception to the 4th Amendment, and we must ensure that these agencies adhere to the Bill of Rights.
Americans' data of the United States is already protected by the Constitution. There's nobody on this House floor who would argue that you don't need a warrant to look at Americans' data in the United States. This amendment, and I encourage everyone to pick it up and read it, applies to the data that we collect in spying on Hamas, Hezbollah, the Communist Chinese Party. To give them a warrant, to give them constitutional protections, means that they're open for business. The day after this passes and we go blind, the Communist Chinese Party has a complete pass to recruit in the United States students to spy on our industry and then our universities. Hamas and Hezbollah have a complete pass. We will be blind as they try to recruit people for terrorist attacks within the United States.
when I was a member of the judiciary, I saw all the abuses of the FBI, the terrible abuses over and over and over, the hundreds of thousands of abuses. And then when I became speaker, I went to the SCIF and got the confidential briefing from sort of the other perspective on that to understand the necessity of Section 702 of FISA and how important it is for national security. And it gave me a different perspective. So I encouraged all the members to go to the classified briefing and hear all that and see it so they can evaluate the situation for themselves. And I think some opinions have changed both ways, but that's part of the process. You got to be fully informed.
As I think it was President Reagan said, we're from the government. We're here to help.